Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features Morbius issue number 1, cover dated September 1992. Now this was on sale on the 21st of July 1992. This is part 3 of 6, The Rise of the Midnight Suns. So the popularity of this character, Ghost Rider, his title launched in 1990. The popularity of that title got Marvel editorial thinking about, well, what about creating a horror imprint and a new line of horror comics? And of course they didn't have to reinvent the wheel because they already had a staple of horror characters from the 1970s, going all the way back to this guy, Morbius, who first appeared on the cover of Amazing Spider-Man 101. And as drawn by Gil Kane, and indeed this particular cover by Ron Wagner, inked by Mike Witherby. Wagner's style here really evokes that Gil Kane influence, and I do sometimes think of Wagner as having primarily a John Buscema influence, but I think he must have been looking at those original Gil Kane drawn Morbius issues of Amazing Spider-Man for some influence for this particular issue. And the cover image itself, it is absolutely by definition an eye-catching one. Michael Morbius there looking quite frightening in his costume, the costume updated for the 90s, and that kind of ragged cloak that he wears on his back with the magenta interior of the cloak. I think it's all very effective, and of course we have an upshot here. We're looking up underneath a gargoyle somewhere in Midtown Manhattan. So let's open this one up to the inside credits page, and we see there Morbius number 1 part 3 of Rise of the Midnight Suns, and the creator credits are writer Len Kaminski, penciler Ron Wagner, inker Mike Witherby, and those two coming over from drawing issues of Ghost Rider. Colorist Gregory Wright, the usual colorist on Ghost Rider, and also the letterer Janice Chang, the same. So we've looked at here on the channel part 1 and part 2 of Rise of the Midnight Suns, and this now is part 3. There are 38 pages of story and art in this particular story. So let's look at the first page there. We get a tight 3/4 profile close-up on Morbius's face, and it is pretty horrifying looking. Again, I see the Gil Kane influence there. And we have a third-person narration. The nerves in his teeth itch. The insides of his eyelids feel like sandpaper. There's a gnawing in his bones, as if the marrow were being eaten away by millions of insect larvae. All thought has been reduced to a singularity of purpose. Humanity gone, conscience fled, there was only the need and the frenzied desperation to fulfill it. There, below the redhead, he can smell her stench of cheap perfume, rancid scent of clothes that should have been washed rather than worn. That's an interesting little perspective there as he narrows his eye, almost in disgust at the stench of those clothes that should have been in the washing machine. But anyway, continuing with the narration, but beneath that, oh, the sweetness. His aching throat screams now. The endless emptiness in his stomach shrieks, yes, yes. So he leaps off the top of the building. Great upshot there. And also we're looking at the metal fire escape in perspective. That's a fair bit of work there done by Ron Wagner. And Morbius is licking his fangs as he flies to the ground, grabs the redhead. Now her hair there isn't exactly what I would be expecting from a redhead, but maybe it's more strawberry blonde. And she spots the vampire reaching out to her there, and that's going to be the end of her because he grabs her by the throat with his teeth, and she screams. And then this is fairly horrifying stuff. You can see her hands shaking there as he's schlupping and slurping the blood from her throat. Relief brings recollection. Who he is, how he came to be. Recollection brings realization. So now he feels remorse. The woman is dead, apparently, and he whispers, "Not again," as he raises his hands, shaking hands to the heavens. So that's quite the opening. Morbius is a vampire, and we've just had a demonstration of that. And then across town, because it is Rise of the Midnight Suns, we've Blackout and we've Lilith. And Lilith has returned to our realm, and she is gathering her Lilin, her children, and she's got schemes to unleash a realm of demons upon the earth and return it to the way that she likes it. So she exclaims here as Blackout punches some discotheque enjoyers from his pathway and Lilith's pathway. She says, "Such wonderfully malevolent ambience, and that dreadful cacophony, like the music of the tormented. Tell me, dear one, what is it called?" And Blackout responds, "Speed metal." There's something funny about that. It's kind of hilarious. I am enjoying Len Kaminski's writing here so far on these opening pages. I think he's got a broader sweep of diction than, for example, Howard Mackey, and I think he's playing around with the language a bit more, and there's definitely a sense of humor there too. So, what does Lilith say? She says, "What delights there are in this new world. Perhaps we will tarry a bit after we have found those of my wayward children we seek. Ah, there you are, my darling," she says, "how I've missed you through the aeons." And then they get on their hands and knees and bow down to her. "Come to mother," she says. And there's something, there's a kind of like a BDSM subtext to this. There's some strange Freudian subtext too in relation to Lilith, her costume design, and her relationship with her children who are so eager to please her. It's kind of disturbing, but there's an undercurrent of dark sexiness to it as well, which is interesting when one considers that this is a Comics Code approved comic, and that the primary audience would be expected to be 12 to 14-year-old boys, I'm pretty sure. Love the colours on these pages as well. Love the use of magenta here by Janice Chang. I think it's all really good. Let's turn the page. And who's out on the streets in a seedy part of town with those XXX girls, porno theaters there in the background? Again, kind of interesting stuff in a Comics Code approved comic. And also that rather cheeky little picture up there by Ron Wagner of a naked lady's rear end. Again, just kind of interesting, the edginess of some of this work in 1992. And it's Times Square. Oh, so that's the specific location. So a little bit before the Disneyfication of Times Square. And we have the first person monologue by Ghost Rider. "I sense a fragile tension in the ether," he thinks. "In the darkened skies above, I glimpse the shadows of omens and portents I cannot read. Momentous events are about to transpire, yet the details remain opaque to me. It is a new sensation. I do not care for it. John Blaze and I have returned to New York in search of the creature called Blackout. Our only leads a Manhattan hotel from room number and a woman's name." So what I want to say about Ghost Rider's first person monologue there is that it's richer in vocabulary. It's a little bit more poetic than the way that Howard Mackey writes his first person monologue, which is interesting. Different writer, slightly different style. And this is kind of funny. Ghost Rider knocking on a hotel room door rather than busting it in. So here's the woman looking out suspiciously from behind the Chubb lock. "Martine Bancroft?" asks Ghost Rider behind his reflective cycle helmet so she can't see the flaming skull. "Yes, can I help you?" she responds. I mean, like, that's kind of hilarious. "May we enter?" he asks. "It concerns innocent blood." And of course, that is the primary concern of the Ghost Rider in this version. So shortly, we get a top-down view of the hotel room there, 3-point perspective. It's all really well done by Ron Wagner. And it looks like explanations have been given to Martine Bancroft. Now that is a name that long-time readers, Marvel readers, would recognize as being Michael Morbius's girlfriend. So that's who this is, but new readers wouldn't know that, and they'd only pick up on it later on in the comic. So Johnny there says, "So Ghost Rider, and I think you might be involved, but we don't know how. What are you doing in the city?" So she responds, "I'm looking for someone." Morbius, I've heard that. Sorry, she says here, "His name is Michael Morbius." And so Johnny repeats the surname Morbius, Morbius. I've heard that. He was the guy who turned himself into, and she picks up and finishes a living vampire. So she's got those photos of her boyfriend there on the edge of the bed, and she shows them before the transformation, after the transformation. And Ghost Rider is kind of funny. He picks up the photograph. I must see that photograph. This man, he says, and we can see the reflection of the photograph on his reflective motorcycle helmet. He was part of that which was revealed to me. And that is the vision that he shared with Danny, who's almost dead, but not quite, in Ghost Rider number 28. I saw him, yet not quite like this, because his costume is different, right? It's been updated. Tell me more of this Morbius, he says to Martine. Now, hold on. She replies, you barge in here, give me the third degree. Just who do you think you are? And this is the point that he takes off the helmet, unleashes that mystical flame. An interested party, he replies. Oh, she whispers. The whole scene is really well paced here, really well handled by Kaminski. There's a kind of a dry humour going on, as near as I can tell. This is a great double page spread here. So she pours herself a stiff drink. You can see 3 mini bottles here of probably whiskey. She says. I'm not even going to ask. I don't want to know regarding Ghost Rider and his appearance. Hold on a sec, okay? I need a drink. All right. I don't know much about his background. It was the one thing he wouldn't talk to me about. I've no idea why. Michael was a biologist, a brilliant one. So now we're getting the backstory on Michael Morbius by virtue of this story point. The Ghost Rider getting the information, but we, any of us that are new readers, are getting it too. By the time we met, she says, he'd already won the Nobel Prize. Some thought he might equal Pasteur, Salk, or Crick and Watson. We fell in love. We were engaged to be married. Neither of us knew it then, but by that time, Michael was already dying. He contracted a rare and fatal blood disease. At some point, he discovered his condition and for months laboured in secret to find a cure. And now for the flashbacks. Interesting choice here in the colours by Janice Chang. She goes to black and white or grayscale. He became desperate as his time ran out. He started experimenting with strange, untested treatments, serums extracted from vampire bats, electroshock therapy. It worked, sort of. Oh, he'd staved off the disease all right, but there was a horrible side effect. After he had, the treatments had transformed him into a creature which had to feed on human blood to live, a living vampire. After he almost killed me, and you can see the reference there, Fear number 31, he avoided me completely rather than risk it happening again. Later, he went into a kind of remission and got a chance to rebuild his life. I prayed he would succeed, that maybe we could be together again, but then I heard that he'd relapsed and had encountered the occult expert Stephen Strange, a reference to Doctor Strange Volume 2, number 10 there, and most recently he supposedly fought Spider-Man, and that's Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man number 13. When I heard, I knew what I had to do. So that catches us up on the entire history of Morbius. And now there she is finishing off her drink. So here I am, she says. And Johnny asks, supposing you find him, then what? I found a doctor, Martine replies, a biochemist who's agreed to try and help. He thinks he may be able to find a cure. And if that doesn't work out, I like this device of Ron Wagner's where we're looking at her reflection as she's reaching into a drawer and pulls out this huge handgun. And if it doesn't work out, he asks, that's why I carry this, she says. One way or another, I'm not going to let him suffer anymore. So her intention is to cure him or kill him. Well, what does Ghost Rider conclude? We must find this Morbius, he says. All right, Martina's happy. Guess that means you can count us in. I'm pretty sure I've located Michael's daytime lair, she says. So she's all packed up, she's got her stuff ready to go. I'd planned on confronting him there after dawn. Almost that time now, says Johnny, looking at his hand watch. Wristwatch. He'll be easier to deal with then, she says, and she picks up the phone. First though, I have to make a phone call. Again, really love the storytelling here from Ron Wagner. It's so smooth And the way that he's moving the camera, figurative camera around, is really well done. It's excellent work from Wagner. So the scene switches to uptown in the private laboratory of Dr. David Langford. So the phone rings. It's Martine on the other line. And she asks him, is everything ready? Just about, he says. She tells him, I found some help. And he puts the phone down. Michael, 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 he repeats. And we see these journal articles he's been reading, recombinant gene splicing, utilizing customized viral agents by Michael Morbius, unpublished. And now Dr. Langford says, he says aloud, you really are too brilliant for your own good. If you had just accepted your disease, you'd at least be resting in peace now. If you hadn't written so many brilliant unpublished papers during your remission, you wouldn't have attracted so much of the wrong kind of attention. And if you hadn't studied your condition so thoroughly and kept such detailed notes, I'd never be able to synthesize a serum which will prove fatal to your peculiar metabolism. And you can see the implication. This is kind of funny. This kind of bubbling substance in the beaker, you can see a skull face on it. And he concludes that it'd look like an honest attempt to cure you during an autopsy. So now he picks up the phone again. This is Langford. Tell Dr. Payne that everything is proceeding according to plan. So Langford has not been sincere with Martine. He's looking to kill Morbius. Then back at the limelight. Now, already just looking at this page, what I love are the colors, the lurid magentas and lurid greens here. Really evocative of the vibe and energy of this club now that it's been taken over by Lilith. So she wants to talk to her two children. Come closer, Nakota, darling, she says to the female one. I require the kind of help only your special talent can provide. There is a man I must kill named Michael Morbius. Look out into the night, dear. Find him and show me what you see. So reflected in Nakota's eyes are details of what's been going on. Martine's search for Morbius, Ghost Rider Blaze, Dr. Langford, and Lilith sees it all. Two of our enemies, an alchemist, some type of elixir, a desperate woman, all searching for one man, a man whose disease makes him like unto a creature of the night. So she thanks her child and then calls out to the other guy, Fang, and he seems to be wearing glasses that are a bit like Cyclops' visor. I have an errand for you to run, dear boy, she says with a big smile on her face. And then we pick up with our protagonist, and he is flying about Midtown Manhattan. Dawn comes, the narrator declares. Time to hide, time to sleep. Hide to avoid the sun's ultraviolet, which sears his flesh. Sleep to escape his guilt, which burns him from within. This is his proper place now, with the cockroaches, the rats, and other parasites. The light of day creeps over the horizon, and it starts to burn him there. He must return to the darkness where he belongs. So in he leaps inside the window to the apartment where he is staying. It's all really well done. Love the perspective, 3-point perspective here in particular, but it looks like maybe Witherby was inking just by hand without a ruler or a straight edge. It's all really well done, but if you pay attention to this panel here, the 5th panel, you can see who are these guys on the motorbikes. Well, it's Ghost Rider and Johnny Blaze and Martinez there and Dr. Langford too. We will enter the building first, says Ghost Rider. Love the way the art is bleeding off the page as well. So, you know, that's another great bonus of comics in the 90s, the fact that they were able to give us full bleed art. So, what does Langford say? He says, you know, Martine, you're acquainted with some of the most interesting people. Again, that's that kind of sense of humor coming through in Kaminski's script. I like it. So at this point, no knocking on the door. Ghost Rider and Johnny bust in through the front door that's boarded up. There's no light in the tenement building. Yahoo! Exclaims Johnny. Avon calling, so more of that humor coming out in Kaminski's script. And again, just Ghost Rider, he doesn't have a sense of humor. Who is this Avon, he asks. Never mind, says Johnny. Perhaps answers will be forthcoming, Ghost Rider thinks. And Johnny thinks, hope we don't have to blow the poor guy away. And Martine is thinking, she's behind the two men. Please, Michael, let us help you. And Langford has his own thoughts. Suppose she'll have to die too. So he's contemplating not just killing a living vampire, but also murdering Martine. Not a good man, eh? And then Ghost Rider, he gives the game away by walking on a creaky floorboard, and out races Morbius. So they recognize him, of course. Johnny pulls his sawn-off shotgun. Remember, it's loaded with hellfire. And here's Morbius crouching like an animal at bay. Did you really think I'd be such easy prey, he asks. Begone, leave me to my misery, or I'll not be responsible for my actions. So Martine begs, Michael, please let us, and he sees her. Martine, he's taken aback, covers his face. This is all really, classic tropes of monster movies, where the monster is horrified at his own appearance, in particular in the presence of his beloved, but she only wants to help him, and that's what she says. And Morbius replies, there's no help for me except death. But Morbius will not die today. So he leaps out the boarded up window, and Johnny unleashes one of those hellfire rounds. But what happens is that Ghost Rider grabs him with his chain and pulls him back into the building. He's only stunned, says Langford. We have to get him back to the lab for treatment. But remember, he's planning to kill him, make it look like an accident or unintended. Meanwhile, back at the lab, here's Fang. And the lab is locked, but he has a strange power, just like Nakoda. And he's able to turn into a shadow or something and go under the door itself and then reconstitute himself. And he's looking around the lab. That must be it. Now to add the special secret ingredient, he says. And the narrator explains, under normal circumstances, demon blood is a virulent poison. Nobody told that to Fang. The twice-tainted serum burbles and fumes, alchemical reactions transforming it into something wholly unknown and entirely unpredictable. So he cuts his own wrist and lets some of his own blood into the serum, and now it's adulterated. And what's it going to do? Later on, we have this top-down shot of Morbius strapped to the treatment bed, and Langford leaning over him and getting ready to inject him with the serum. So he's saying there that Morbius, he's all right physically, but not for long though, he thinks to himself. Ironic. Here I am trying to prevent minor infections in a man I'm about to murder. Got to keep up appearances though. And Ghost Rider is alert to something. He's thinking about Morbius. What secrets are locked within that tormented bind, he asks himself, and what is their significance to me? So Ghost Rider, unsure of his own origins, what is he? Martine there, looking to reassure Morbius. You'll be well soon, Michael, she says, I promise. And Blaze watching. She's touching him. She must really love the guy. And of course, Blaze himself is a family man. He's got his own wife, Roxanne. And so even though he has a tough exterior, he does understand love. And that's coming out in that thought balloon. So it's thoughtful stuff from Kaminski again. I like his script. And so the doctor tells them, all right, I'm about ready to begin. Best clear the room. Why? Like Morbius is strapped down. Doesn't make any sense. Anyway, they all obediently walk off, but Martine is looking over her shoulder back at Morbius. So here's Langford. Odd. The serum's changed colour, he thinks. It's kind of magenta now, but he loads it into the injection gun. Don't suppose it matters much. Like, that's so bizarre. That's kind of like the plot driving things here. Surely a scientist would be curious about the change of colour and test the serum. But anyway, he just goes ahead because the plot requires it, and he injects Morbius in the neck. Morbius's blood red eye opens instantly, and he screams. And Langford understands, Belatedly, something's wrong. It shouldn't be happening like this. So Morbius's flesh starts bubbling here with boils, and Langford gets it. He's mutating, cellular transformation, DNA alteration, God knows what else. Die, die, he exclaims, why won't you die? But Morbius breaks free of the restraints and crashes out the window. It's all really well done, well told. In rush Blaze and the others. Langford, exclaims Blaze, what's all the... And Ghost Rider sees Morbius is gone. So Langford there, his head in his hands. He's aghast. Not my fault, something unknown. I did what I was supposed to, not my fault. So Martine, she's aghast. David makes sense. Where's Michael? Gone, he says. Broke free, still mutating. Oh God. Ghost Rider says we must recapture him. In his condition, he's a danger to himself and to innocence. Love the drapery here on Langford's lab coat and the spotting of blacks too. Very, very well done. Later, Langford's on the phone to Dr. Payne. There's been a complication, he says, even as Martine there is sobbing with her head in her hands, so she's not paying attention to what he's saying on the phone. Love the colours here from Janice Chang. Really sells us on Daybreak. Those oranges and yellows. It's really, really well done. And Morbius trying to hide from the light too. And the narrator declares, Daybreak is a holocaust. That's an arresting opening phrase. Morbius is not a morning person. There's that humour that I was talking about. For him, sunlight brings dehydration, retina damage, melanoma, and eventually death. His flesh wreathes on his bones, burned by the awful radiance, while within, his tissues shudder from the effects of the chemicals still filtering through his system, changing him, remaking him. He must find shelter or die. But where? Wait. There is someone nearly forgotten. Someone he might be able to trust, who might give him sanctuary. Desperation drives him back out into the blinding sky, filled with frantic new strength, if not hope. And this is a great 3-panel sequence here, where Ron Wagner keeps the camera steady, but Morbius is struggling to jump off the rooftop. He jumps right over the ledge there. The sun is rising all the time, and there's his silhouette flying at daybreak. That's really great 3-panel sequence from Ron Wagner. And another great upshot here, kind of a worm's eye view as we're looking up at the building in which there is one Jacob Wiesenthal, MD, medical doctor. So it's a brownstone on 19th Street. And here's Wiesenthal himself, and he's enjoying the morning sun, this very sun that's rising. This is all really well drawn by Wagner. And Wiesenthal thinks to himself, morning light here's worth every dime I paid for this place. I like that. I like that little bit of characterization. He's enjoying his morning coffee or tea. What looks like heading straight towards, So he sees that silhouette out there. It's Morbius. He smashes through the window frame and he looks absolutely feral. Oi, exclaims Wiesenthal. So he recognizes Morbius, of course. Easy now, he tells him, you've had a rough day. And Morbius is back to his human self for a moment anyway. What, my hands? How long was I unconscious? Almost 9 hours, says the doctor, and my condition beats me. You were a mess this morning. There seems to be an unknown factor in your system. So it's the demon blood. It's Fang's demon blood. And its reaction with the serum cooked up by Langford has had this unexpected effect. That the vampiric curse temporarily lifts from Michael Morbius. It's causing all kinds of strange physiological reactions, says Wiesenthal. I did a few tests, but I'm not really equipped for this sort of thing. Under normal circumstances, I'd insist on taking you straight to a hospital, but, Morbius interrupts him, then you know what I've become, and that I'm a wanted criminal. So Wiesenthal simply replies, I follow the papers, but what I know is that you're my friend, and you need my help. So Morbius is a scientist too, a bioscientist. He's looking at the notes, increase in T4 cells and leukocytes, stimulation of immune response, spontaneous cellular regeneration, but it can't be stable, and it isn't, because the transformation back into the living vampire occurs. I'm reverting, he says. I can feel the thirst returning. So Wiesenthal is horrified. What we need is a sample of whatever it was that was introduced into your system. If we can synthesize it and determine dosage, then we can control your condition, work on extending your normal periods. So there's hope. There's hope now. A twist of fate. The plot to kill him has yielded a glimmer of hope. You will help me, asks Morbius, even knowing what I've become. And Wiesenthal replies, the Michael Morbius I knew was a good and honourable man. So far, I've seen nothing to indicate that that has changed, no matter what else has happened to you. But Morbius starts thinking, I remember what happened, I can get that sample, but we'll need more effective protective clothing than this. So he goes into this kind of goth store here, Trash and Gaudeville, finds exactly what he's looking for, a leather outfit. This is exactly what I need. Yeah, it's kind of more of a BDSM store actually, and again, interesting seeing this in a Comics Code approved Marvel Comics circa 1992. So it's what he wants. Radical, says the shop assistant. Guy wearing that could do some serious damage. You know, like she's talking about sex, but he smiles and is thinking of something else. I'll take it, he says, several $100s later. It feels right somehow. After all, don't most hunters have special outfits? Why not him? But then the thirst hits him. He surrenders his weightless body to the custody of the night winds. His humanity he leaves behind. Let his prey beware. So this could have been a cover itself. And it's very, very cool. Love the color palette from Janice Chang and the perspective here from Ron Wagner and the foreshortening on Morbius. It's all really, really well done. So there we go. Justin and Martine overhears Langford, and he's surrounded by these big men and he's trying to explain himself. But you don't understand. It shouldn't have been possible. The chemical structure was not conducive to mutagenic metastasis. I did everything Dr. Payne told me to. The doctor is not interested in excuses, says one of these huge men, just results. It should have been fatal, says Langford. And Martine overhears that, but instead of keeping her mouth shut, she reveals herself. You scum, she exclaims. You weren't trying to help Michael, you were trying to kill him. So he protests there. She pulls out that big handgun and she shoots it, but Langford grabs the gun from her. You little tramp, he exclaims. Do you have any idea what Payne will do to me for screwing this up? All because of you and your darling Michael? So she begs for her life, but he fires off the massive handgun. Great hatching in this particular panel for the muzzle flare there. And I like it looks like there's a kind of a cutting in of white media as well here on the hatching lines on the barrel of the gun. And then moments later, smash window, Michael Morbius returns to the lab from which he escaped earlier. The first thing he notices is the unmistakable scent of fresh blood. He salivates, and then he sees it's Martine, so he exclaims, no. Shock lends clarity. For a moment, he's just a man again, a man in pain. She's still alive, and she calls his name and tells him that, or he tells her rather, that it's all right and that he loves her. And she responds, I love you too, reciprocating. There's so much blood. There's the wound, a chest wound. He can't help himself. Like, this is a kind of a shocking sequence. He feeds on her just as she's dying. Now, of course, that may be the means by which she herself becomes undead, a living vampire. An interesting choice too from Ron Wagner to remove the panel borders from this final moment on this page. And then Morbius pulls himself up from the wound. Dear God, what have I done? He exclaims, and he screams, never again, never again. So we get him with his clenched fist there in the middle of the page. The time has come to end my cursed existence. Before still more died to slake my inhuman thirst. But first I will have vengeance. So this is kind of comical. Langford here kind of says weakly, uh-oh. Turn the page. We get a really cool double page spread. Morbius lashes out at one of those huge blonde men there. Smashes him in the jaw, drawing blood. Very, very cool. Love the dynamism of Morbius's leap there. So the big guys tell Langford, get out of the way. But Langford is in shock. He's frozen in fear. And Morbius is easily deals with him. Or rather, one of the big heavies. Which one of you scum killed her, he asks. Was it you? You've a gun, maybe it was you. It doesn't matter. I'll kill you all, just to be certain. So there's an explosion in the lab. And Morbius here, I love the colouring on this. The oranges, the yellows, the spotting of blacks. He walks inexorably towards Langford. And Langford begs, no, stay away, not my fault. She made me do it. I didn't mean to kill her. He's for it. Morbius says to him, she bled to death, you know. There wasn't much left by the time I found her. I'm still thirsty, Langford. So Langford, he's got his hands out. Leave me alone, you monster. Monster? Yes, I am that, replies Morbius as he grabs him by the throat. A wretched creature enslaved by need, doomed by my own hand. But you deserve to live, even less than I. So he opens his jaws. There's the huge fangs. And he rips out Langford's throat. Time to take out the garbage. So we get a kind of Arnold Schwarzenegger dry wit there as he throws him out that window again. And we're coming to the end of this inaugural issue. And the narrator declares, he is killed again. Where is his remorse? Where is the remorse? He searches himself and finds no regrets. For the first time since his curse began, drinking blood has brought not just relief, but satisfaction. He will not end his life today. So this is an interesting development for Morbius. If he feeds on the blood of the guilty, he feels no remorse himself. It's only now when he feeds on innocent blood, and of course innocent blood is all Ghost Rider's interested in, that he feels remorse and guilt. He finds the beaker of serum, within whose unknown chemical structure the secrets of his salvation may be hiding. He scarcely notices the growing fire, so it's moving towards those oxygen tanks until it's almost too late. Massive explosion. It's really, really well drawn and rendered there by Wagner and Witherby. Love the hatching and again the cutting in of the white media there. The force lines, the smoke. It's really, really well done. And what about the beaker? He's dropped it, but who catches it except for Ghost Rider? Events have transpired in our absence, he says. Really? Replies Blaze. Gosh, I wouldn't have noticed. There's that little bit of humor again. So Morbius alights on the ground. Give me the beaker. He's got a complete focus on that. No, says Ghost Rider as Johnny was about to level the shotgun at Morbius. There are forces at work we do not yet comprehend. What has occurred here? Ghost Rider asks Morbius. Langford's serum was meant to kill me, Morbius explains. Something went wrong and instead it caused further mutagenic reactions in my physiology, which I've yet to understand. Apparently Martine discovered Langford's treachery, so he murdered her, for which he is paid. And Ghost Rider there, you know, it's his obsession. He thinks to himself, I must employ the penance stare. If there is deceit in Morbius's words, it will be revealed. The Ghost Rider's penance stare is a mirror by which the dark side of the soul is reflected. This is what Morbius sees. So here's all the guilt for the people that he killed, where they're saying, I had a family, I was a drunk, but I didn't deserve to die, I wanted children, I would have been the first in my family to go to college, etc., etc. You're going to burn, you know, give me my life back. Their voices are not unfamiliar to him. Now, you have not shown me anything, Ghost Rider, that I didn't already know. So Ghost Rider concludes, there's no deceit here. You present me with a quandary, Morbius. You are not without conscience, and yet I cannot allow you to continue to drink innocent blood. So Morbius now, this is what it's all been leading up to. Accept this vow, then. If I must drink blood, let it be the blood of the corrupt, of those who deserve to die, the blood of the guilty. And Ghost Rider replies, very well. Although you've chosen a road which is far thornier than you suspect, I shall not interfere. Be warned, though, should you stray from it, we shall meet again. So he gives him the serum, gets on his bike, Johnny's on his too, and now he thinks to himself as they race away, "It is ironic. I sought Morbius thinking that he would play a role in my own destiny, only to discover that I am but a minor character in his. He's lost his love. He has found purpose. He's been given hope. He wonders, what will tomorrow night bring?" So he flies up into the air as the police arrive, and you can just see his bat-like silhouette there in front of the Chrysler building. Great uplighting too. Really, really good stuff. And now, what about Lilith? She's still in that speed metal club and looking into Nakota's eyes. "By Yog Sothoth," she exclaims, "another of these insignificant mortals has escaped my grasp. I'll not stand for it. But no, revenge must wait for another day. There are others who must die first, other mortals far less powerful than Morbius. Nakota, darling," she says, "yes, dear, I know you're weary, but I need your sight. Show me the whereabouts of Victoria Montesi." So that is the transition to Rise of the Midnight Suns continuing in Darkhold, #1. And then the very last page, page 38, it's the Daily Bugle. It's nighttime, so we're looking at it mostly in silhouette. Inside we've got Joe Robertson, the city editor, and we have a bit of humor here about a Jane Doe that was brought in. There was no blood in the body. I can see it now. Bloodless body found in topless bar. It can only be one man, thinks Peter Parker. The most nightmarish of all my enemies, Morbius. And I'm going to have to do something about it as Spider-Man. But the text indicates, nope, Spider-Man doesn't show up next issue. He doesn't get here until issue #3. It's just as well because Morbius is going to have his hands full anyway. Be here in 30 days for Welcome to the Jungle. So that's an interesting choice, like to signpost that Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, is going to interact with Morbius, but not in the next issue, in the 3rd. So, you know, it kind of gives a reason to pick up the next and the 3rd in a certain sense. But I really like the Ron Wagner art on these pages. I like the kind of look of Blackout there. He's enjoying, sort of quote unquote, enjoying his drink, but he doesn't get any dialogue. He's kind of like the heavy keeping guard in front of Lilith's booth in the heavy metal or speed metal club. And that's a fairly he means business look on Peter Parker's face. He looks older there and, how will I put it, like more muscled than we might expect of Peter Parker. But more akin to the John Romita Jr. version of Peter Parker in that regard, like beefier is what I mean. And there you go. I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on Rise of the Midnight Suns, Morbius, issue #1. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comment section. Great art, I think. I think there's some wit and humor to Len Kaminski's script, and I think that it does a good job for any readers unfamiliar with Morbius in terms of giving his backstory and doing it in a way that isn't too expositional. And also I like the narrating voice. I like the kind of rich prose and the little bit of poetry to it as well. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comment section. If you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like and share the video. It really does help the channel. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.